Sometimes I think the most mysterious place on Earth isn't space at all. It's the world hidden right beneath our feet, an entire kingdom of darkness stretching across thousands of miles, untouched and unseen. Whenever I stare at the ocean, calm and endless, I remember one simple fact: humanity has explored only about 5% of it. And every time that number flashes in my mind, I can't help but ask myself, what lives in the remaining 95? When I imagine those unseen depths, I picture a world where sunlight never existed. A world where pressure crushes metal like paper, and where the idea of normal life simply doesn't apply. Down there, survival follows rules we barely understand. Every creature is shaped by forces so extreme, they're almost alien. Yet despite all these challenges, scientists have still managed to glimpse fragments of what hides below. They've encountered giant squids stretching longer than a school bus, drifting silently through the darkness like ancient guardians. They've recorded fish glowing with bioluminescent patterns, tiny floating galaxies lighting up a black, endless night. They've studied beings that don't see the way we do, but instead sense heat, electricity, and movement with mind-bending precision. But the deeper we descend, the stronger the feeling grows that the ocean is keeping secrets far bigger than anything we've found so far. It's as if those unexplored depths protect something ancient, something that has existed long before humans even walked the earth. When I think about it, I imagine life forms that never needed the surface. Creatures shaped by darkness, adapting across millions of years to pressures that would instantly crush us. Maybe some of them grew so specialized, so perfectly built for the abyss, that rising closer to the surface would be as deadly for them as descending would be for us. And that thought alone opens an entirely new question. If something has lived down there longer than us, evolving without interruption, what could it look like now? Scientists can only make cautious guesses, and even those sound unbelievable. Life that feeds on chemicals instead of sunlight. Bodies built from tougher, stranger materials than anything we've seen. Nervous systems that sense the world in ways we can't replicate. And all of that, just in the parts we barely touched. Every time I think about this, I realize that the ocean isn't just a body of water. It's a massive layered universe. A universe that knows how to hide. A universe that might not want us to see everything it holds. And this is only the beginning. Because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. The deeper I imagine myself sinking into the ocean, the more I understand why humans rarely venture there. It's not just the crushing pressure or the freezing cold, it's the silence. A silence so complete that even the sound of your heartbeat would feel too loud, as if something down there might hear it. And yet the ocean does make sounds. Strange ones. Sounds that travel for hundreds of miles through the water, captured accidentally by underwater microphones built for entirely different purposes. One of the most famous is a noise scientists called the bloop. It was powerful enough to be detected across the entire Pacific Ocean, and for years, no one could explain it. Some said it resembled the call of a huge living creature. Others insisted it had to be an underwater quake. But the truth is this: no official explanation has ever been universally accepted. And the bloop isn't the only one. There are dozens of unexplained oceanic sounds, moans, clicks, metallic echoes, that defy simple answers. Some are too rhythmic to be geological, too patterned to be random, too strong to come from anything we've ever observed in known marine life. Every time I hear recordings of these sounds, it sends a chill through me. Not because they're frightening, but because they feel like evidence of something vast communicating in ways we barely understand. Then there are the shadows. Deep-sea cameras, built to withstand unimaginable pressure, sometimes capture enormous silhouettes drifting past the lens. Shapes so large and so unfamiliar that researchers avoid making assumptions. The official reports always say the same thing: the object was not identified due to low visibility. But people who review these tapes privately often describe the same eerie sensation, that whatever passed by wasn't just large. It was purposeful. The ocean floor also hides places scientists call dead zones, where electromagnetic readings act strangely. Instruments malfunction. Compasses spin without direction. Machines lose signal. And when diverse or unmanned vehicles approach these zones, their equipment sometimes shuts down entirely, as if something interrupts the very energy holding their systems together. Geologists say it could be caused by magnetic minerals buried under the seabed. Maybe that's true, but doesn't explain why these places often coincide with sightings of massive moving shadows, or why communications fail at the exact moment something approaches the cameras. There's a pattern forming, one that no one wants to admit. Unexplained sounds, glimpses of enormous shapes, malfunctioning equipment, zones where nature behaves as if obeying rules we don't know. Sometimes I wonder if the ocean is sending signs, not by choice, but by existence alone. Signs that something ancient still moves down there. Something that has no reason to come near the surface. Something that might only be noticeable when it wants to be, or when our technology accidentally comes too close. And if that's true, if we are brushing against the edge of an undiscovered world, then the most important question is no longer what is down there. It's whether we're prepared for the moment when curiosity pushes us deeper than ever before. Because sooner or later, we will reach a part of the ocean that doesn't want to stay hidden anymore. The more I learn about the deep ocean, the more I realize how little our biology books actually prepared us for it. Down in the abyss, life doesn't follow the rules we know. It rewrites them. It reshapes them. It breaks them entirely. Take hydrothermal vents, for example. They're cracks in the ocean floor where superheated water bursts out, filled with minerals toxic to almost every known creature on the surface. Yet around these vents, entire ecosystems thrive. Worms without mouths or stomachs. Crabs that walk in absolute darkness using heat signatures instead of eyes. Microbes that don't need sunlight, they feed on chemicals, turning poison into energy. This discovery alone changed everything we knew about where life can exist. If organisms can survive without sunlight, living off heat and minerals, then life isn't as fragile as we once believed. It's adaptable, resilient, and if such strange life thrives near vents, what forms might exist miles deeper, in places we haven't even reached? Scientists have theories, some cautious, others daring. Some believe the deepest areas of the ocean may hold creatures older than the continents themselves. Their evolution shaped not by climate or seasons, but by pressure, darkness, and isolation. Over millions of years, such conditions could produce life forms more advanced, or at least more specialized, than anything we've seen. But there's another idea that fascinates me even more, the possibility of intelligent patterns. Not intelligent beings in the way we think of intelligence, buildings, tools, language, but forms of awareness adapted to darkness. Awareness that reads the environment through vibrations, electrical fields, and subtle movements in the water. Imagine beings that never needed light because they evolved senses far more refined. Creatures that perceive the world as a shifting map of pressure waves and energy pulses. To them, our ships might feel like clumsy intrusions, loud, bright, chaotic. When deep-sea drones descend too far, their lights and motors create disturbances that could be interpreted as a threat. That might explain why some machines malfunction just as they approach the unknown. Perhaps they're not breaking, perhaps something is disrupting them deliberately. Not out of aggression, but out of instinct. There are dive logs describing sudden drops in temperature, like something massive passed nearby. Reports of unexplained pulses hitting sensors with precision, as if scanning them. And while these notes never make it into official publications, they pass from researcher to researcher like quiet warnings. There's something down there we don't understand. Something watching. It's strange, but the deeper the science goes, the more it overlaps with ancient legends, stories of enormous beings beneath the waves, older than time, living in silence until disturbed. Sailors may have exaggerated details, but the core idea remains the same across cultures. The ocean holds life that doesn't resemble anything on the surface. And if those stories have even a fragment of truth, then we may be sharing the planet with creatures we haven't yet formally discovered, but who have known about us for much, much longer. As I think about this, one thought keeps returning. If life in the deepest parts of the ocean evolved to survive in conditions no human could endure, what else could have evolved to do? Because if some creatures down there developed ways to sense us, what if they've also learned how to avoid us? The more we push into the deep ocean, the more I feel that we're approaching a turning point, one humanity isn't fully prepared for. Every expedition goes a little deeper, stays a little longer, captures clearer footage. And with each step, the boundary between myth and reality becomes thinner, like a shadow moving just beyond the reach of our lights. Some researchers believe we're only a few technological breakthroughs away from exploring the deepest trenches directly. New submersibles, quieter than anything built before. Cameras that see without emitting a single ray of light. Sensors designed to detect even the faintest movements in the water. But there's something unsettling in that progress. The more silent and advanced our machines become, the more likely it is that we'll catch something by surprise. Something that was never meant to be seen. I sometimes imagine the moment it happens, a descending drone drifting through the darkness, its instruments recording perfectly, when suddenly the water around it shifts. Not violently, just a subtle, massive presence passing nearby. A shape that blocks out the currents. A body so large the sensors can barely calculate its size. No aggression, no warning, just the quiet awareness that we are no longer alone in that black expanse. Scientists might call it a discovery. Historians might call it the greatest moment in human exploration. But deep inside, I think it would also be the moment we finally understand how small we truly are. The ocean doesn't belong to us. It never did. We've only skimmed its surface like birds touching the skin of a lake, never realizing what moves beneath. There are stories, unofficial ones, about submersibles that reported seeing lights in the deep. Not reflections, but organized patterns. Pulses that responded to their presence. Patterns so precise they seemed intentional. And yet those logs never reached the public. Not because they were dangerous, but because they raised questions no one was ready to answer. What if the deepest parts of the ocean aren't just unexplored, but inhabited in ways we can't yet describe? Not monsters, not myths, just life, vast, ancient, and different. Life that evolved without sunlight, without contact, without interruption. Life that might understand the rhythms of the planet better than we do. And maybe that's why it stays hidden. Not out of fear, not out of hostility, but because it has no reason to rise to our level. When I think about this, one realization echoes louder than any deep sea sound we've ever recorded. The ocean doesn't hide its secrets from us. It simply exists in silence, waiting for the moment we venture deep enough to see what has been there all along. And now that you've reached the end of this journey with me, ask yourself one last question. If tomorrow humanity finally sees what lives in the remaining 95% of the ocean, would the world ever feel the same again? Stay curious. Stay brave. Because some mysteries don't disappear. They wait.